The story of Buddha begins not just with a man, but with a mystery. Who was Siddhartha Gautama, an Indian prince who abandoned luxury, a deep-thinking philosopher who searched for life's truth, or a divine, enlightened being who unlocked the path to liberation? More than 2,500 years after his life, his influence continues to shape the world through spiritual practice, philosophy, psychology, and even modern science. Unlike religious founders who preached divine revelation, Buddha claimed no chosen status. He said he was simply awake. He didn't demand blind faith. Instead, he invited people to see reality as it truly is. But how did a sheltered prince become a spiritual teacher followed by millions? Why did his ideas about suffering, compassion, and inner peace spread across cultures for thousands of years? And what secrets about the mind and life did he discover beneath that sacred Bodhi tree? To understand Buddha's journey, we must travel back to ancient India, to a time of kingdoms, warriors, and spiritual seekers, and follow the path of a man who transformed human history, not through power, but through wisdom.
To understand the life of Buddha, we must first understand the world he was born into. Ancient India, around the 6th century BCE, a land of kingdoms, spiritual seekers, and deep social divisions. Society was controlled by a strict caste system. Brahmins were priests, Kshatriyas were warriors and rulers, Vaishyas were merchants, and Shudras were servants. Above them were kings. Below them were the untouchables, people considered so low they were treated as less than human. Religion at the time was dominated by rituals and sacrifices to please the gods. The Brahmin priests held enormous power, controlling spiritual knowledge and performing costly ceremonies. But beneath this structure, a quiet revolution was beginning. Many thinkers felt that rituals could not answer life's deepest questions. Why is there suffering? What happens after death? What is the meaning of existence? This era became known as the Age of the Seekers, when many renounced society to search for truth in forests and mountains. Mystics, philosophers, and ascetics wandered across the land, teaching meditation and self-discipline. Powerful new ideas like karma, cause and effect, samsara, the cycle of rebirth, and moksha, liberation, were being explored. It was in this world, full of suffering, inequality, and spiritual searching, that Siddhartha Gautama, the future Buddha, was born. A world ready for a voice of clarity, compassion, and liberation.
According to ancient tradition, the birth of Siddhartha Gautama was surrounded by mystery, symbolism, and prophecy. His story does not begin as the story of an ordinary child, but as the beginning of a spiritual revolution. Siddhartha was born around 563 BCE in Lumbini, a small village in what is today Nepal. His father, King Shuddhodana, was the ruler of the Shakya clan, and his mother was Queen Maya, known for her purity and grace. Legend says that before Siddhartha was conceived, Queen Maya had a dream. A radiant white elephant carrying a lotus flower descended from the heavens and entered her side. Wise sages interpreted this dream as a sign of a divine birth, a child destined for greatness. On the day of his birth, Queen Maya stopped to rest in a grove of blossoming sal trees. As she stood beneath one of the branches, she gave birth to Siddhartha painlessly. The child, it is said, took 7 steps immediately after birth, and lotus flowers bloomed beneath his feet. He raised his hand to the sky and declared, "For enlightenment I was born, for the good of all beings." Shortly after his birth, the king invited Asita, a wise sage, to examine the child's destiny. Asita looked at the infant prince and began to weep. When asked why he cried, he answered, "This child will become a Buddha, a fully awakened one.
but I will not live long enough to see his greatness." Another prophecy revealed two possible futures for Siddhartha: go on to become a powerful world ruler, a universal king, or become a great spiritual teacher, freeing humanity from suffering. King Shuddhodana, determined that his son would become a king and not a spiritual ascetic, vowed to shape Siddhartha's life so that he would never see suffering. But destiny was already unfolding. Thus, the journey of the Buddha began, not as a warrior, but as a seeker of truth.
Siddhartha Gautama grew up surrounded by luxury so complete it became a golden prison. His father, King Shuddhodana, terrified by the prophecy that his son might abandon royal life to become a spiritual teacher, did everything in his power to shield him from the reality of suffering. Siddhartha lived in the royal palace of Kapilavastu, surrounded by music, feasts, gardens, and courtiers. He had 3 magnificent palaces, one for each season of the year. Servants attended to his every need. Dancers and musicians entertained him. Pleasure, beauty, and comfort followed him everywhere. But none of it was accidental. The king ordered, no sick people near the prince, no old people in his presence, no suffering, no hunger, no death, no mention of religion or spiritual seekers. The world around Siddhartha was carefully controlled to create the illusion that life was perfect. The king believed if Siddhartha never saw pain, he would never seek truth. But deep inside, Siddhartha felt a quiet restlessness. He had everything, but something was missing. Even amid beauty, he sensed a strange emptiness, a silent question: is this all life is? Pleasure today, sorrow tomorrow, and then nothing. At 16, he married Princess Yashodhara, who loved him deeply. They soon had a son, Rahula, whose name means fetter or chain, as Siddhartha felt the responsibilities of family life pulling him deeper into the palace world. Yet no matter how much his father tried to protect him, truth cannot be hidden forever. The walls of comfort were about to crack, and Siddhartha would soon confront reality, face to face.
On another journey, Siddhartha saw a man suffering from disease, coughing and moaning in pain, his body burning with fever. "Will this happen to all people?" Siddhartha asked. "Yes," Channa said. "Sickness is part of life." Siddhartha had lived in pleasure, but now saw that no wealth can protect anyone from illness. Third sight, death. Then Siddhartha saw something even more disturbing, a dead body being carried to cremation, grieving family walking beside it. "Is this the fate of every human being?" he asked. "Yes," Channa answered. "Death comes for all." Siddhartha felt a deep shock in his heart. How could people live happily, knowing that pain, decay, and death were inescapable? Fourth sight, the holy man. Finally, Siddhartha saw a wandering ascetic, a man who had given up material life in search of truth. Despite having nothing, the man's face was calm and peaceful. "Who is he?" Siddhartha asked. Channa replied, "A seeker of wisdom, one who searches for the end of suffering." And in that moment, Siddhartha understood his destiny. The 4 sights shattered the illusion of his sheltered life. He could no longer live for pleasure alone. He had to search for truth, for a way to overcome suffering, not just for himself, but for all humanity. His journey had begun.
Siddhartha Gautama had seen the truth of life. Suffering is real, and no palace walls can hide from it. Though he had a loving wife, Yasodhara, and a newborn son, Rahula, he felt a calling far greater than royal duty. He knew he must seek the path to end human suffering. But that path demanded a sacrifice. The Night of Awakening. One silent night, while the palace slept, Siddhartha stood by the door of his chambers. He looked at his sleeping wife and child, his heart torn. "If I stay, I will never find the truth. But if I leave, I will break their hearts." He touched his son's cradle one last time. He would not wake them. This journey was his alone. Crossing the river. With his loyal charioteer, Channa, and his beloved horse, Kanthaka, Siddhartha slipped quietly beyond the palace gates. They rode far from Kapilavastu, crossing forests and plains until they reached the Anoma River. There, Siddhartha dismounted. He removed his jewels, his silk robes, his sword, the symbols of privilege and power, and handed them to Channa. He cut his long, royal hair with a single stroke. In that moment, Prince Siddhartha died, and the seeker of truth was born. He told Channa, "Take these things back to my father. I will not return until I find the end of suffering." A life of searching begins. Barefoot and dressed in simple robes, Siddhartha walked alone into the wilderness. He had renounced wealth, status, and comfort, not because he rejected life, but because he wanted to understand it. He had begun the great quest.
After leaving behind his royal life, Siddhartha Gautama began a relentless search for ultimate truth, a path to end suffering not just for himself, but for all humanity. He believed that someone, somewhere, must already know the answer. So he went from teacher to teacher, forest to forest, seeking wisdom. Learning from the wisest teachers. Siddhartha first studied under Alara Kalama, a master of meditation. He quickly mastered deep states of concentration and trance, reaching spiritual levels few could achieve. But even after reaching the highest state his teacher could offer, he asked, "Does this lead to the end of suffering?" The answer was no. Still determined, he traveled to another master, the sage Uddaka Ramaputta, who taught even deeper mystical states of meditation. Siddhartha went beyond even his teacher's level and was offered to lead the group, but he refused. These states of mind are peaceful, but they do not end the suffering of life. The path of extreme self-denial. Leaving behind traditional teachings, Siddhartha turned to severe asceticism, believing that perhaps suffering could be conquered by conquering the body. He joined a group of 5 ascetics and began extreme fasting and self-punishment. He ate so little that his bones showed through his skin. He slept on beds of nails, held his breath until he fainted, and meditated beneath scorching suns and freezing nights. People said he was a living skeleton, a man barely alive. The realization. After 6 years of harsh self-denial, Siddhartha suddenly collapsed while meditating. A village girl named Sujata found him and offered a bowl of rice milk. At that moment, he understood. Neither luxury nor self-torture lead to truth. Truth is found in balance, in the middle way. He abandoned extreme asceticism, and his 5 companions left him in disappointment. But Siddhartha knew he was now closer than ever to enlightenment. He had purified his mind, disciplined his body, and tested every path. Now only one step remained: the direct experience of truth.
For 6 long years, Siddhartha Gautama pushed his body and mind to their absolute limits. After leaving his life as a prince and rejecting the path of teachers who could not answer his deepest question, he turned to extreme asceticism, the belief that truth could be reached by crushing desire through self-denial. He lived in the forests of India among wandering holy men. At first, he fasted moderately, then severely. Eventually, he survived on a single grain of rice a day, sometimes nothing at all. His body withered, his ribs became sharp like claws, his eyes sunk into their sockets, and his skin clung to his bones. Ancient texts say, "He was so emaciated that he touched his belly and felt his spine." Siddhartha practiced painful disciplines, holding his breath until dizzy, exposing himself to scorching heat and freezing winds, meditating for days without moving. He believed that by rejecting every comfort, by killing every desire, he would overcome suffering and reach the truth. People saw him and bowed, not to honor him, but because they thought he might already be a spirit, not a man. But in the deepest silence of his struggle, Siddhartha realized something profound. Asceticism did not free him from suffering. It only created more suffering. Torturing the body did not purify the mind. Starvation did not bring wisdom. Pain did not give answers. He had reached the extreme, and at the edge of death, he finally saw the illusion. Both luxury and self-torture are chains. True freedom is found not in extremes, but in balance. With that realization, Siddhartha accepted a simple bowl of rice milk from a village girl named Sujata. His strength slowly returned. The 5 ascetics who had followed him abandoned him, believing he had given up. But he had not given up. He had just discovered the middle way, a path between indulgence and self-denial. He was now closer than ever to enlightenment.
Siddhartha Gautama walked to the banks of the Naranjana River in the quiet forests near Bodh Gaya. There, beneath a large fig tree, later known as the Bodhi tree, the tree of enlightenment, he sat down upon a bed of grass and made a vow. "I will not rise from this place until I attain the truth, though my body wither and my bones turn to dust." This was not an act of stubbornness. It was the moment of ultimate courage. Siddhartha was no longer searching outside himself. He turned his mind inward, ready to confront the deepest realities of existence. The temptation of Mara. As Siddhartha entered deep meditation, Mara, the lord of illusion and desire, appeared to stop him. Mara did not want a human being to transcend suffering, because if Siddhartha succeeded, countless others would follow. Mara attacked Siddhartha in 3 ways. Fear. He sent storms, earthquakes, and armies of demons, but Siddhartha remained unmoved. Desire. Mara sent his 3 daughters, Tanha, desire, Arati, discontent, and Raga, passion, to tempt him. Siddhartha saw through the illusion and stayed in perfect peace. Doubt. Finally, Mara tried his greatest weapon. He whispered, "Who are you to seek enlightenment? What right do you have to sit here?" In answer, Siddhartha reached down and touched the earth with his right hand. The earth itself bore witness to his countless lifetimes of compassion and effort. Mara was defeated. The illusions vanished. The 3 watches of the night. As Siddhartha sank deeper into meditation, he saw reality unfold in 3 phases. First watch. He remembered all his past lives, countless existences through birth and death. Second watch. He saw how all beings are trapped in the endless cycle of suffering, samsara, through karma and ignorance. Third watch. He discovered the path out of suffering, the 4 noble truths, and the way to liberation, the noble Eightfold path. And then, at dawn,
a great stillness filled him. Siddhartha Gautama was no longer merely a seeker. He had awakened. He became the Buddha, the one who sees, the awakened one. Under the Bodhi tree, a human broke the chains of suffering, not by worship, not by violence, not by magic, but through wisdom, compassion, and unshakable clarity. The middle way had triumphed.
Mara's temptation, overcoming fear and illusion. As Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath the Bodhi tree in deep meditation, poised on the edge of enlightenment, a powerful force rose to stop him. Mara, the tempter, the embodiment of ignorance, fear, and desire. Mara did not appear as a simple villain. He represented something far more dangerous, the inner forces that keep human beings trapped in suffering. Doubt, fear, attachment, illusion. Mara unleashed his assault in 3 great waves. First, the attack of fear. Mara summoned hurricanes, firestorms, and earthquakes. Demons with terrifying faces hurled weapons at Siddhartha, but every weapon turned to flowers as it neared him. The storms dissolved into silence. Siddhartha did not move, because fear only controls those who cling to fear. Second, the temptation of desire. When fear failed, Mara sent his 3 beautiful daughters: Tanha, desire; Rati, pleasure; Austerity, discontent. They offered Siddhartha kingdoms, love, admiration, and pleasure, but Siddhartha had seen through illusion. Desire, he realized, leads only to craving, and craving leads to suffering. His heart remained pure and still. Third, the poison of doubt. In a final desperate attempt, Mara whispered, "Who are you to claim awakening? What right do you have to sit here?" This was not a physical attack, it was psychological, the deepest attack of all. Doubt is the last chain of the mind. But Siddhartha did not argue, nor did he retreat. He simply reached down and touched the earth. With that gesture, he called the earth to witness his countless acts of compassion over lifetimes. And the earth responded. Thunder rolled. The demons vanished. Mara was defeated. This moment is more than a legend. It is a truth about the human journey. Mara lives in all of us. Every time we face fear, temptation, or self-doubt, we meet Mara. And every time we stay true to our purpose, we defeat him. Under the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha conquered not the world, but himself. He was now ready for enlightenment.
The first teaching, the 4 Noble Truths. After attaining enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha remained in deep peace for several weeks. But he soon faced a profound question. Should he share what he had discovered? The truth he realized was subtle and deep, far beyond ordinary thinking. Would anyone understand? At first, he hesitated, but then legend says Brahma, the great deity, appeared and pleaded with him. There are those with only a little dust in their eyes. Teach them the path to freedom. Moved by compassion, the Buddha chose to teach. The first sermon begins. He walked to Sarnath, where he found his 5 former companions, the same monks who had abandoned him when he rejected extreme asceticism. At first, they refused to greet him, but when they saw his calm presence and radiant wisdom, they knew he had achieved something extraordinary. There, in Deer Park, the Buddha gave his first teaching, called Dhammacappavatthana Sutta, setting the wheel of Dharma in motion.
the Four Noble Truths. In this teaching, he revealed the foundation of his realization, the Four Noble Truths, a universal diagnosis of suffering and the path to freedom. The truth of suffering, dukkha. Life contains suffering, pain, loss, dissatisfaction, and impermanence. Even pleasure fades. Nothing in life can bring lasting satisfaction. The truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. The cause of suffering is craving and attachment, desires, ego, and illusions that bind us. We suffer not because life is cruel, but because we cling to temporary things. The truth of the end of suffering, nirodha. By letting go of craving, one can end suffering. Freedom is possible. This state is called nirvana, peace beyond fear and desire. The truth of the path, magga. There is a path that leads to liberation, the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to living with wisdom, ethics, and mental clarity. Turning the wheel of Dharma. This teaching was not just philosophy, it was an invitation to transformation. It was a new way of understanding life, neither religious dogma nor blind faith, but a path of experience, self-discovery, and awakening. When the Buddha finished his sermon, one of the 5 monks, Kondana, understood the truth and became the first disciple to attain enlightenment. The Sangha, the community of awakened practitioners, was born. The journey of Buddhism had begun.
The middle way, path between self-indulgence and self-torture. Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama explored 2 extremes in search of truth. First, he lived as a prince, surrounded by luxury and pleasures, believing comfort and desire could bring happiness. But he discovered that wealth could not protect him from sickness, aging, or death, and pleasure could never satisfy the human heart. Then he turned to the opposite extreme, severe self-denial. He practiced brutal forms of asceticism, starving himself, sleeping on nails, holding his breath until he fainted. He reduced his body to skin and bone, believing pain would lead to liberation. But in both extremes, he found only suffering. The realization. One day, after collapsing from exhaustion by the river, Siddhartha accepted a simple bowl of milk rice from a young village woman named Sujata. His companions abandoned him, thinking he had given up. But in that quiet moment, he awakened to a profound truth. Truth is not found in extremes. Peace is found in balance. What is the middle way? The middle way is the path Buddha discovered, the path that avoids both self-indulgence and self-torture. It is a life of wisdom, moderation, and inner clarity. Not too tight, not too loose, like tuning a stringed instrument. Discipline without cruelty. Simplicity without weakness. Freedom without chaos. The middle way teaches us that happiness doesn't come from chasing pleasure or running from discomfort, but from understanding the mind and seeing reality clearly. Why it matters. The middle way isn't just a Buddhist idea, it's a universal truth of human life. Extremes lead to suffering. Extreme result: overindulgence, addiction, emptiness. Self-denial, misery, weakness. Anger or passivity, conflict or stagnation. Blind faith or cynicism, ignorance or despair. The middle way brings balance, harmony, and insight. By discovering the middle way, Siddhartha found the path that would lead him to enlightenment, and millions after him would follow it.
After discovering the middle way, Buddha revealed the practical path to end suffering and achieve inner freedom, the Noble Eightfold Path. This path is not a religious command or a set of rules. Instead, it is a guide for living, a roadmap to wisdom, peace, and liberation from suffering. The 3 pillars of the path. The Eightfold Path is divided into 3 core practices. Pillar, purpose. Wisdom, understanding reality correctly. Ethical conduct, living with morality and kindness. Mental discipline, training the mind through meditation. The 8 parts of the path. Here are the 8 steps Buddha taught, each one connected, forming a cycle of transformation. Step, meaning. Simple explanation. Right view. Understanding truth. Seeing life as it really is. Accepting change and cause and effect. Right intention. Right purpose. Living with good intentions, kindness, honesty, and compassion. Right speech. Truthful communication. Speak honestly, avoid gossip, lies, and harmful words. Right action. Moral conduct. Do no harm, avoid violence, stealing, and wrongdoing. Right livelihood. Ethical work. Choose a job that doesn't harm others. Right effort. Positive mindset. Remove negative thoughts, grow good ones. Right mindfulness, awareness. Be fully present, aware of body, feelings, thoughts. Right concentration, deep meditation. Train the mind through focus and meditation. A path to inner peace. This path is not just for monks or spiritual seekers, it is for any human being who wants less suffering, more clarity, peace of mind, purpose in life, freedom from greed, hate, and ignorance. The path is a practice. The Eightfold Path is not a ladder, it is a circle. You practice all 8 steps together in everyday life. When you speak kindly, you purify the mind. When you focus and meditate, wisdom grows. When wisdom grows, your actions and choices improve. And as your actions improve, suffering fades. This is the heart of Buddha's teaching, a way to end suffering without needing to worship a god or follow blind faith. It is a practical path of transformation, step by step.
After attaining enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, Buddha faced a question. Should he keep this profound truth to himself or share it with the world? He chose compassion. He decided to teach, not just to a few, but to anyone willing to listen. Rich or poor, outcasts or kings, men or women. Thus began the Sangha, the first community of disciples and followers who dedicated their lives to understanding and spreading the path to enlightenment. The first 5 disciples. Buddha first found the 5 ascetics who had once abandoned him when he rejected extreme self-denial. At first, they refused to listen, but when they saw a new calm radiating from him, they sat down. Buddha taught them the 4 noble truths and the middle way, and they became the first monks of the Sangha. Their names were Kodanya, the first to understand the Dharma, Bodhi, Vapa, Mahanama, Asaji. These 5 formed the foundation of the Sangha. What is the Sangha? The word Sangha means community. It originally referred to the monastic followers who left ordinary life to seek enlightenment. Later, it expanded to include lay supporters, ordinary people who practiced Buddhist teachings while living normal lives.
The Sangha was built on equality and compassion, radical ideas for the time. Sangha principle, revolutionary meaning. Equality. Caste, status, and wealth didn't matter. Simplicity. Life based on meditation, not materialism. Nonviolence. Peaceful living and harmless conduct. Wisdom. Personal experience over blind faith. The rules of the Sangha. Members of the Sangha followed simple but disciplined lives, wore plain robes, lived by alms, accepting food donations, practiced meditation daily, followed moral vows, no violence, no lies, no possessions, spent life learning and spreading the Dharma. They lived not for themselves but to ease the suffering of others. The Sangha expanded. Soon thousands joined from all walks of life, farmers seeking peace, scholars seeking truth, kings seeking wisdom. Women, after persuasion, Buddha also allowed women to join, forming the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the order of nuns. The Sangha became a spiritual revolution, not through war or power, but through truth and compassion. The Sangha ensured that Buddhist teachings survived for more than 2,500 years. Without the Sangha, there would be no Buddhism today.
Compassion lies at the very heart of Buddhist teachings. While many see Buddhism as a philosophy of meditation and inner peace, at its core it is a path of compassion, active kindness rooted in wisdom. Buddha taught that all beings seek happiness and wish to avoid suffering. This simple truth creates a moral responsibility to live in a way that reduces suffering, both in ourselves and in others. What is compassion in Buddhism? In Pali, compassion is called karuna. It doesn't just mean feeling sorry for someone, it means taking action to help. True compassion is powered by wisdom, prajna. Without wisdom, compassion becomes emotional and blind. Without compassion, wisdom becomes cold and selfish. Together, they form the essence of enlightenment. The four immeasurable qualities. Buddha taught four divine states of mind that open the heart. Pali term, meaning, description. Metta, loving kindness, wishing happiness for all beings. Karuna, compassion, wanting to relieve others' suffering. Mudita, sympathetic joy, rejoicing in others' happiness. Upeksha, equanimity, calm acceptance and balance. These qualities are called immeasurable because they can expand endlessly. There is no limit to love. Compassion and karma. Compassion is deeply linked to karma, the law of cause and effect. Every thought, word, and action creates consequences. Kindness generates good karma. It returns like an echo. But Buddha clarified something important. Karma is not punishment or reward. It is simply cause and effect, shaped by intention. When we act with compassion, we purify the mind, reduce negative emotions like anger and hatred, build inner peace and happiness, create conditions for spiritual progress. Compassion in action. Buddha taught practical ways to live compassion. Help others without expecting anything. Forgive instead of holding resentment. Avoid violence in thoughts, words, and deeds. Practice generosity, dana. Speak kindly. Respect all life, including animals. He once said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal law."
After Buddha attained enlightenment and spent over 45 years teaching in India, his message began to travel far beyond the place of its origin. What started as a small community of monks and followers eventually became one of the world's greatest spiritual traditions. Buddhism spread through peace, wisdom, and compassion, not conquest. Growth in India. After Buddha's death, Parinirvana, his disciples preserved his teachings through memorization and oral tradition. Buddhism steadily grew, especially during the reign of Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE. Ashoka, once a ruthless conqueror, converted to Buddhism after witnessing the horrors of war. He helped spread the Dharma by building monasteries and stupas, supporting Buddhist monks, sending missionaries across Asia, promoting nonviolence and moral living. Journey beyond India. Buddhism spread peacefully through trade routes, merchants, and missionaries. Region: how Buddhism arrived. Key features: Sri Lanka, sent by Emperor Ashoka or Mahinda, preserved the Theravada tradition. Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, through monks and traders, adopted Theravada Buddhism. China, via Silk Road traders, birth of Mahayana schools. Korea and Japan, brought from China, Zen and Pure Land schools emerged. Tibet, from India in the 7th century, development of Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism. Central Asia, through merchants, Buddhist art and culture flourished. Branches of Buddhism. As it spread, Buddhism developed into different traditions. Branch, region, focus. Theravada, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar. Oldest tradition, focus on meditation and monastic life. Mahayana, China, Japan, Korea. Compassion, Bodhisattva path. Vajrayana, Tibet, Mongolia. Rituals, mantras, esoteric teachings. Global influence in modern times. In the 19th and 20th centuries, Buddhism reached Europe and America through philosophers, scholars, and spiritual seekers. Today, millions practice meditation, mindfulness, and Buddhist philosophy around the world. Figures like the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, and D.T. Suzuki helped introduce Buddhism to the West as a path of peace, wisdom, and inner freedom. Why Buddhism spread successfully. No forced conversion, simple practical teachings, universal message of compassion, tolerance toward other religions, appeal to both reason and spirituality. From small villages in ancient India to almost every country today, Buddhism became a global spiritual tradition, not through power, but through truth and kindness.
Although Buddhism is often seen as a path of peace and wisdom, its journey was not without resistance. From the very beginning, Buddha and his followers faced doubts, criticism, and debates, both from religious authorities and ordinary people who questioned his teachings. Opposition in India. During Buddhist time, India was rich with spiritual traditions, Brahmanism, Jainism, and many philosophical schools. His teachings challenged many long-held beliefs, which created strong resistance. 1. Challenge from Brahmin priests. Buddha rejected the authority of the Vedas, the caste system, costly animal sacrifices, the belief that only priests could connect with the divine. This angered many Brahmins, who accused him of destroying tradition. 2. Debates with other philosophers. India had more than 60 philosophical schools. Buddha debated with many thinkers, materialists or Charvakas, who denied karma and rebirth, eternalists, who believed in an eternal soul, fatalists, who believed destiny controls everything. Buddha argued through logic and reason, gaining respect even from his opponents. 3. Challenge from his own disciples. Not everyone within the Sangha, Buddhist community, agreed with him. Devadatta, Buddha's own cousin, tried to split the community and even plotted to kill him. Others criticized Buddha for allowing women to join the Sangha. Yet Buddha stood firm and preserved unity through compassion and wisdom. Skepticism and criticism. Many people question Buddha. Where is God in your teaching? Buddha spoke of truth and liberation without needing a creator God. Why avoid rituals? He taught that inner transformation matters more than ceremonies. Why leave family life? He explained the search for truth goes beyond personal comfort. Instead of reacting with anger, Buddha encouraged open dialogue. Come and see for yourself, ehipassiko, a core principle of Buddhism. Political opposition. Some kings and rulers feared the influence of Buddhism because it united people across castes. It encouraged free thinking. It reduced the power of priests. Yet other kings like Bimbisara and Ashoka became great supporters. Intellectual debates over centuries. Even after Buddha's death, Buddhist monks engaged in formal philosophical debates across Asia. These debates helped refine Buddhist ideas and protect the teachings against misunderstandings. How Buddhism survived. Despite criticism, Buddhism spread because it encouraged reason and personal experience. It allowed questions and debate. It focused on ending suffering, not proving dogmas. It adapted to cultures without violence. Buddha welcomed challenges, not as hostility, but as a path to deeper truth.
Although Buddhism is known for its emphasis on wisdom and inner transformation rather than supernatural powers, Buddhist tradition is filled with miraculous stories and legends that reveal the deep reverence people had for the Buddha. These stories are symbolic, meant to teach moral and spiritual lessons rather than impress with magic. Did Buddha perform miracles? According to ancient texts, yes, but Buddha did not encourage miracles as proof of enlightenment. He taught that the greatest miracle is the transformation of the human mind. Still, many legends tell of extraordinary events during his life. Famous miracles attributed to Buddha. 1. The twin miracle, Yamaka Pariharya. When challenged by rival teachers to prove his wisdom, Buddha performed a miracle where fire streamed from one side of his body and water from the other, alternating rapidly. This miracle is said to have inspired thousands to follow his teachings. 2. Walking on water. While traveling, Buddha and his disciple Ananda came to a flooded river. Instead of turning back, it is said that he calmly walked across the water, symbolizing control over fear and attachment. 3. The taming of Nalagiri the elephant. A furious elephant named Nalagiri was released to kill Buddha. Instead of running, Buddha approached it with deep compassion. The raging beast knelt before him peacefully. This story teaches the power of loving kindness, or metta. 4. The floating lotus steps. Legends say that when Buddha took his first 7 steps as a newborn, lotus flowers bloomed beneath his feet. This symbolizes purity and destiny. 5. Multiplying himself. In various texts, Buddha is said to have divided into countless forms, each one teaching the Dharma. This represents the idea that truth speaks to all in many ways. 6. Sermon to the animals. It is said that Buddha once taught the Dharma to animals, calming snakes, birds, and even demons. Whether literal or symbolic, the story teaches universal compassion. Sacred wonders after his enlightenment. Bodhi tree protection. When evil forces tried to distract him, storms and illusions appeared, but Buddha remained still, and the Bodhi tree protected him. Path of light. After enlightenment, legend says a radiant light surrounded him for days. Earthquake at awakening. When he attained nirvana, the earth trembled, symbolizing a shift in cosmic truth. Miracles or metaphors. Many Buddhists see these stories as spiritual metaphors. Fire and water, equal mastery over emotion. Taming the elephant equal conquering anger. Walking on water equal overcoming fear. Multiplying forms equal teaching adapted to every mind. Buddha's view of miracles. Buddha discouraged miracle seeking and said, "The greatest miracle is to transform hatred into love." His focus was always on inner awakening, not magic.
In the final stage of his life, the Buddha began a long journey across northern India, fully aware that his time on earth was coming to an end. He was around 80 years old, weak in body but unshakable in mind. This journey, known as the Parinirvana path, became his last mission, to deliver the deepest truths to those ready to hear them. A journey of compassion. Despite his age and illness, Buddha continued traveling from village to village, teaching anyone who wished to listen, monks, farmers, warriors, kings, and even outcasts. His message remained the same. Peace comes not from the world, but from within. Along the way, he offered final guidance to his disciples on how to keep the Dharma alive after his passing. Final teachings of Buddha. 1. Be a light unto yourselves. Shortly before his death, Buddha spoke these famous words: "Be lamps unto yourselves. Hold fast to the truth as a lamp. Seek no refuge outside yourselves." He reminded his followers not to depend blindly on teachers or tradition, but to discover truth through direct experience and wisdom. 2. Everything is impermanent. Buddha repeatedly warned his disciples, "All conditioned things are subject to decay. Strive diligently." He reminded them that nothing lasts forever, not life, not pleasure, not sorrow, so one must live with awareness and compassion. 3. The power of right effort. He emphasized persistent effort on the Eightfold path. Guard the mind, avoid harmful actions, cultivate virtue, train in meditation and insight. Awakening, he taught, is possible for anyone who practices sincerely. 4. Unity in the Sangha. Buddha urged harmony among his followers. Do not quarrel, do not divide. Live as one community in love and respect. He asked them to solve disagreements through reason and kindness, not ego or power. 5. No successor. The Dharma is the teacher. When asked who would lead after him, Buddha replied, "Let the Dharma and the Vinaya, the teachings and the monastic discipline, be your teacher." He appointed no heir, no prophet, no divine figure, only truth itself. The final meal, a lesson in acceptance. During his journey, Buddha accepted a simple meal offered by a humble blacksmith named Chunda. After eating, he fell severely ill, but he instructed his disciples not to blame Chunda, teaching them a final lesson in compassion and gratitude. Preparing for the end. As he approached the town of Kusinara, he lay down beneath 2 sal trees. Even in his last moments, he continued teaching, answering questions, and offering comfort. His final words, before passing into Parinirvana, Buddha spoke his last message to the world. All things fade away. Strive with diligence.
Under the twin shala trees in Kusinara, surrounded by grieving disciples, the Buddha entered Parinirvana, the final and ultimate liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. This was not a tragedy, but the completion of his journey. For over 45 years, he had walked across India teaching the path to freedom from suffering. Now his mission in human form was fulfilled. As he prepared for his final meditation, the Buddha lay on his right side, serene and composed. Even in death, he demonstrated mindfulness, fully aware, fully present. His last moments were calm, gentle, and filled with compassion. He comforted his followers by reminding them, "Do not weep. All things that arise must fall. This is the way of the world." The stages of final meditation. Witnesses described his departure as a deep meditative process. The Buddha passed through ascending stages of meditative absorption. First jhana, focused mind, detached from desire. Second jhana, bliss and inner clarity. Third jhana, peace beyond pleasure and pain. Fourth jhana, perfect equanimity. The formless realms, infinite space, consciousness, and beyond. Cessation, the end of all mental formations. Then, still, silent, beyond suffering, he passed into Parinirvana. What is Parinirvana? Parinirvana is different from ordinary death. Ordinary death leads to rebirth, another life shaped by karma. But for the Buddha, there was nothing left to bind him to the world. He had destroyed all ignorance and craving. He was free. The flame had gone out, not extinguished, but liberated. The mourning of the disciples. Ananda and the other disciples wept. Even the trees were said to have shed blossoms in sorrow. But the wise monk Anuruddha reminded them, "Do not grieve. The Blessed One has attained the highest peace." Thousands came to honor him. Kings, monks, villagers, and wanderers came to pay respect, not to a god, but to a teacher who revealed the path to awakening. Division of relics. After his cremation, the Buddha's relics were divided among 8 kingdoms across India. Stupas, sacred monuments, were built to preserve them, becoming places of pilgrimage and meditation. From this, Buddhism began to spread across the world.
Though he walked the earth over 2,500 years ago, the words of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, still echo with truth today. His teachings were not meant for one religion, one nation, or one era. They were meant for all humanity. Simple, clear, and powerful, they are a guide to inner peace, wisdom, and compassion. Here are some of the Buddha's most timeless teachings. 1. On the power of the mind. We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. 2. On anger. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. 3. On peace. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. 4. On compassion. In this world, hate never yet defeated hate. Only love can conquer hate. This is an eternal law. 5. On suffering. Pain is certain, but suffering is optional. 6. On attachment. The root of suffering is attachment. 7. On patience. A jug fills drop by drop. Little by little, great things are achieved. 8. On self-discipline. It is better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Then the victory is yours. 9. On truth. 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. 10. On kindness. If you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your own path. 11. On fear. There is no fear for one whose mind is not filled with desires. 12. On change. Nothing is permanent. Everything is subject to change. 13. On effort. No one saves us but ourselves. We must walk the path. These teachings are more than quotes. They are keys to awakening.
The Buddha did not ask the world to follow him. He invited each person to look within and discover their own truth.